to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, justice for all.
Thank you. We have two counselors participating remotely, and so that's Counselor Dumont. And I'm just going to ask you guys both a couple of questions. And so, Counselor Blackstone, I need to ask if you are alone.
The audio is really bad.
Oh, you can't hear us?
No.
Let me see.
Zach, are you okay?
Steve, you're good. Tony, I think if you just move your mic, you're doing it might be a bit easier.
Is that better?
For me, it's somewhat better for you. I'm not sure how it is for Scott.
Yeah, it's somewhat better.
Maybe I can switch.
Yeah.
We can switch.
Tim?
Can I just swap this out?
No, because it's numbered.
Sorry. You're having a hard time hearing me?
Talk.
Is that better?
How does it sound? Sound
Yeah.
better? Hillary, is this one better? Zach, can you hear me better on this?
That one is great.
There we go.
Yeah.
Okay, is that better? You can hear me okay? So, Councilor Blackstone, are you alone this evening?
Yes.
And was it not practical for you to join us in person tonight?
Yes.
Thank you. Councilor Dumont, same questions. Are you alone this evening?
I am alone this evening, yes.
And was it not practical for you to join us this evening?
It was not practical.
Thank you. So, moving forward to our agenda, the first item is public forum, and I'm not seeing anyone here in the audience, and we don't have anyone via Zoom. So I will close the public forum at 7:03. And then the next item that we have is for the council to consider the acceptance of the minutes from our October 21st meeting, and so I would accept a motion to approve those minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the October 21st, 2020 meeting.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments or revisions?
Yes.
Councilor Sanders.
On line 90, it says proposed Northampton operating budget. Probably should read proposed Newmarket,
Good catch.
unless we've all moved.
Two of us in this room used to be there, but
Thank you. Seeing no other changes, if you could call the roll, please. Or
Councilor Dumont,
Aye.
Councilor Sanders,
Aye.
Councilor Blackstone,
Aye.
Councilor Braybeck, Councilor Piper,
Aye.
Councilor Burns,
Abstain?
Councilor Weinstein,
aye.
7-0.
I should probably mention that we have Wendy Chase joining us, and she is calling the roll for, she's taking the minutes and calling the roll for us tonight. So,
she will be doing it from now on.
Thank you.
I don't know if you're going to make that announcement, but
That's fine.
the next item that we have is the town manager's report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. One item that's not on my written report that will have a significant impact is that the town has submitted an application to the New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services State Revolving Loan Program for the New Road Drainage Project, which we've been discussing for a number of years. The estimated project cost is $1 million. The loan program has awarded the town a low-interest loan of $1 million with a 10% loan forgiveness. In order for the town to receive these funds, the town must pass a bond vote for the project this year and submit an application by June 30th, 2021. We do plan on applying for additional grants from CDBG for the project. However, the CDBG will not consider an application for grant funds without a positive bond vote on the project. So basically, we're going to have to be submitting a ballot question to issue $1 million in debt for the new road project if we want to see the benefit of having 10% of that forgiven with low interest loans. So I will be putting down the agenda with a resolution to put forward that question at a future meeting. It came in after the budget workshop and the deadline for the setting of the agenda, so we'll do it at the next meeting. On my written report, for an update on the election, all the councilors probably are aware that it went very smoothly. Some of the things that we heard from other communities in the state, including 3-hour-long lines, issues with ballot boxes, didn't come to fruition in Newmarket. We had a great turnout, but it was all, at the beginning there was a line, but throughout the day it was a steady group of individuals at both polling places. The town clerk and I have discussed that we may want to look at utilizing 2 polling places in the future if we have a large issue that we need to vote on. Also, it would potentially lessen the impact on the schools if we ever needed to use the school for certain items. I don't think a presidential election we would be able to use it, but maybe a state election we could do it here and as well as the community center. But we have some time to think about that and look at it since the resolution that was passed is going to sunset as of yesterday. Also, we are going to be getting a second ballot box. That was something we noticed we needed before having 2 wards, just because of the volume sometimes we have. That 2 boxes is a good idea, so we are going to secure that as well. But overall, I just want to say, I want to thank the town clerk and her staff as well. What we've been going through for this election process for the last 9 months has been quite significant, including just determine how we were going to do it. But they were also there from 6 in the morning till almost 12:30. The clerk told me she left last night, so I just want to make sure the public understands that. I also want to thank the council and the volunteers too. You guys put in a tremendous amount of work during the day. You know, we see in the news right now, there's a lot about counting the ballots, and I don't think a lot of people realize that these people are volunteers. For the most part, they're not individuals who have full-time jobs counting ballots. They're somebody who does something else and then comes in to assist their communities. And they do a great job. I will never have a doubt on the day after election, the outcomes. If it's close, you have a recount, and that's what happens. And we've gone through that process here. But I just want to commend everybody for their efforts during. And speaking of elections, we now begin to look at what do we do for deliberative session. With the town election to be held on March 9th, we are looking at how do we hold deliberative session if we still have social distancing and the pandemic going on. The legislature passed HB 1129 that allows for an alternative town meeting during the state of emergency. From my reading of the law, the following may take place. The town council will hold a live virtual meeting and information session, during which the proposed optional deliberative session meeting procedures shall be outlined and warrant articles discussed. There is no public input during this. At least 7 days prior to this informational session, notice shall be mailed to all registered voters describing the procedures to be followed for conducting an annual meeting pursuant to the section. After the live virtual meeting is adjourned, questions and comments from the public shall be solicited and received via email, voicemail, text message, or by other electronic means. Within 7 days of that information session, the council would hold another live virtual meeting to consider and address the comments received from the public. The governing body shall then discuss, debate, and be permitted to amend the posted warrant based on the input. The first article on the ballot in March will say, ask voters to approve these optional meeting procedures. If the optional meeting procedures are not approved by a simple majority, all other warrant articles will be deemed disapproved, except for election of officers. That means, in our situation, the default budget goes into effect. If optional voting procedures are approved, then all other votes on the warrant shall deem final action of the meeting. The law is not clear. This was written for last year, but the date also includes 2021. So a lot of the wording sounds like it's for last year and more based also on traditional town meetings. I've asked the NHMA for clarification, but if we're correct, we'll need to schedule these sessions between January 29th and February 6th, and I'll keep the council posted on my findings. Just an update on the pandemic. I want to take some time to clarify some of the reporting on numbers on COVID-19 cases in the community. As of today, we have 12 cases in the community, and we did have a number. We seem like we have some come off, some come on, but we are staying pretty. 12 is probably our highest we've had, but we've been averaging around 5 to 7 the last month. But one thing we didn't know large quarantine groups, as has been mentioned. The emergency management team is concerned that misinformation may be disseminated and could cause unnecessary stress. Again, since the beginning of the pandemic, we've averaged between 0 and 5 cases at any given time. We are seeing an uptick like everybody else is right now. And just to let people know, of these cases, most were between the ages of 20 and 30, and were individual cases and not associated with a cluster. We've had no outbreaks in our apartment complexes, and with the number that we have, that's pretty remarkable, as well as our senior living facilities. We also know no official deaths from COVID-19. Since the beginning of the pandemic, and this, again, that was as of last week, we had 36 positive cases. We have had more, which is better than our surrounding communities by far. The increases when you hear about Rockingham County having increases, and this is one of the things that it's difficult, is it's a lot of more on the I-93 corridor, Derry, Salem, Londonderry, than it is on the seacoast. Portsmouth is having we're all having an uptick, but Derry, Londonderry, and Salem are more of a hotbed. And since we're in the same county, though, we're lumped in with them, whereas we actually have more to do with Dover, Rochester, Durham than we do with those communities. So it's difficult when you see like Rockingham County's having a large uptake to actually look at what we're doing versus the county as a whole. We just want to make sure that we always have the correct figures and information, and we still feel like we're doing well. We're asking people to be vigilant now. It is starting to get the second surge, which we always knew was going to happen. We've been trying to plan for that since the beginning, that we thought November would be the time we start seeing it, and we are. And we just want to make sure we don't see a huge spike. The other thing is, and I think people forget too, is that when we went to lockdown the first time, the reasoning wasn't to stop the virus. It was so we didn't overwhelm the hospitals. And we never had the situation during the first surge of overwhelming the hospitals. And the number of hospitals are still not that high compared to where we could be and compared to other states. So we are still doing pretty well statewide. We're still doing training and getting ready. We have meetings on if and when the vaccine comes out, how are we going to distribute it. We're discussing more rapid tests for first responders in the community itself, so we'll know ahead of time if there's some kind of outbreak or situation of our own community, and just getting really ready for the winter. And we'd ask the public to do the same. Remember to wear your masks. Remember to stay 6 feet away. Everybody got to be outside and see each other during the summer, and it's going to be difficult a little bit now that it's back in the winter time. But we're just asking people to be careful during this time. Another item on the agenda for first reading tonight is a lease purchase of a new fire truck. We've been working with the attorneys and the Department of Revenue Administration because this is going to be different than how we've done it in the past. In the past, a lease purchase of a fire truck, for some reason, we haven't done one since I've been here, so it's been 8 years. We would put it on the ballot as a bonding situation. But after reading the law, the council has the authority to withdraw money from capital reserve funds. And what we're doing is we're drawing the money from the capital reserve funds to pay the lease payments for the fire truck. And I was like, well, why do we have to go to the voters if the council has the authority to withdraw the money and it's already been appropriated? And the attorney and DRA say, you're correct, but it just has to have a non-appropriation clause in the lease, which would mean that if for some reason we didn't appropriate the money or the council didn't vote for it, the company can come back and take the truck. Have I ever seen that happen? No. In all my years in municipality, but you just have to have that just in case. So That's on the agenda for a first reading, and you'd be the next meeting in November. Also is a resolution to create a parking commission. That comes from the last meeting we held, and what it will do is review our current situation and make recommendations to myself and the council on the way to improve parking. And we based it on many of the other parking commissions in the area on the makeup of that. And finally, the McCallum Dam project is moving along well. Included some pictures. They have filled most of the river, so it's starting to go down, flow again, but the water's there. They are doing some, again, more work and to fix the abutments, and I just included some pictures in my report. And finally, that our one-year agreement with Casella is expiring in December. With the uncertainty in the market and the pandemic and the economy, I'm asking Casella for a one-year extension, and we'll go out to bid again for a longer-term contract next fall. I've already talked to them. They're amicable to that. I don't think it would be beneficial to either side if we went more than 1 year out with everything going on. So they're going to propose one to me, and I'll bring it to the council for adoption. And that's all I have tonight, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments for the town manager? Seeing none, I have a couple. And a comment, first of all, about yesterday's election and the work that Terry Littlefield, our town clerk, her staff, the town moderator, the assistant moderators, so our town moderator is Chris Hawkins, and we also had Clay Mitchell, and Cliff Chase was serving as assistant. I think that's it for moderators. But the work that they did was just, and all the volunteers between the council and then volunteers from the community, and we had a bunch of students from the high school who worked all day, and it was just I can't imagine how it could have gone any better. So just a huge thanks to everyone involved. It was really awesome. So I wanted to make sure I mentioned that. And then the deliberative session, you had mentioned a mailing that we would do. So would we be eligible for any reimbursement of the funding for that? Like,
That's what we believe. I believe we would be, but we'll have to check.
Okay.
Much like for this election, that there was money available, but I think we need to make sure that the state knows that this will be cost to the municipalities as well.
I mean, I would hope that the community would understand. Obviously, we would have to do, I think, a lot of work to explain why we're proceeding that way. But judging from how our deliberative sessions have been, they haven't been very well attended. They've been pretty quick. There hasn't been a lot of controversy. So I think I would rather that we all met in a room and we're live and not virtual. But obviously, I think that people would be pretty understanding of that.
Yeah, you're right, because I mean procedurally, our deliberative session has been more of a public hearing than a deliberative session. It's sort of a public hearing before the budget's been approved, which, I mean, that's what some other communities, Durham holds.
They've been averaging, about 10 minutes too?
Oh, 10 minutes. Most of the public are staff. And it all depends on if we're before or after the school district meeting. If we get more because we're before because they're waiting for the school district meeting, and after because nobody sticks around.
Right.
Because, I mean, that was a perfect example last year.
Councilor Dumont, is this about the election or about the deliberative session? Okay.
Yes, it is.
Oh, please, go ahead.
I did want to ask the town manager if the council were to approve something like this, would this also be in effect for the
I
school
can't hear
board?
We can't hear, I'm sorry.
Can you hear me any better now?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay. If you were to, if the council were to pass this format for us to move forward, would the school board also have to adopt something similar? Would these rules apply for them? I ask because we typically have it on the same day through the same format. So it kind of makes me wonder if we would see any sort of either drop in participation or lack of participation or an inability to actively participate.
well, first off is the school district is an independent government. They have their right to determine how they're gonna hold their own meetings, so they do not have to do it the same way. We have traditionally held our meetings on the same day. But they could, if they can figure a way to hold a meeting with 6 feet between everybody somewhere, they could do it. Would I recommend it as the emergency management director? Absolutely not. Because you're either gonna be outside, or you're not gonna have enough room at the town, like the gymnasium. The other option that we looked at is we do have the authority to move it to another community, which would be renting the Whittemore Center. However, hockey is going on this winter supposedly, so we may not be able to do that. We were looking at everything before we saw this, but that's up to the school district. It's not our call.
I appreciate you answering the question. Thank you.
Councilor Burns.
Yeah, that just made me think of another question. So usually the budget committee is, you know, in attendance, you know, with, when we do our piece and then they do the school piece, but how would that work?
It doesn't. The
Okay.
council serves as basically you're the deliberative session. You take the input, you determine whether or not you want to amend the budget. I mean, this is written for traditional town meetings,
Right.
not so much for our form of government,
Okay,
but the budget committee would have no authority over
okay,
this.
I just didn't.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
And would this affect the public hearings for the,
Public hearings are gonna have to be virtual,
right?
because you can't, or as of right now, we can't have a room with the number of budget committee members. That they can't hold meetings yet
Right.
Right.
in person.
Okay.
I'm gonna-
So I'm not seeing any other comments. We are kind of in the dark.
I know.
I will just, I have one other comment, and that is that a one-year contract for our solid waste sounds like a really good idea to me, just having been involved in a lot of those conversations. I think, or one-year extension, I think that, we're in for, I mean, even with that, we're looking at some pretty significant increases. And, the fate of solid waste and recycling. So, hopefully we'll get a competitive bid when we do go out to bid. So I'm not seeing any other comments, so we can move on to, committee assignments.
The council asked to review the current committee assignments with 2 new counselors on board to see whether or not they want to shake it up a little and have people serve on other things. I will say that there's one other item on here that I have asked to resign from because I don't have time, but it could go, doesn't have to be a counselor, it could be a member of the public, is that the town has a seat on the Coast Bus Board of Directors. They meet monthly in Dover, but right now they're doing it virtually. It's usually on a Wednesday morning at 8 a.m. I don't have the time with some new committees that I'm serving on. I didn't think it was beneficial to not be able to attend both, so I let the executive director there know I was resigning, but we'd find a new person to serve. So if no counselor is interested, then I would suggest we open it to the public to see if anybody's interested to represent Newmarket.
I would also, and Councilor Dumont, I do see that you have a request to speak, but just really quick, even though it's not approved, I think that the assumption that there's going to be a parking committee also needs to be sort of, in the backs of our minds there. Councilor Dumont, go ahead.
I was gonna ask if we were doing committee reports before we stepped into assignments, but we kind of moved past that a little quickly.
Can't hear him at all.
I'm sorry, could you say that again?
Yeah, I was gonna ask if we were doing committee reports before we went into the new assignments, but we kind of transitioned a little quickly.
Oh, sorry. I mean, it doesn't matter if we do assignments or reports first. I'm happy to do reports if that's the wish of the council before we talk about assignments.
Either way.
Do you have a preference?
It's up to you folks. I just had a couple things for budget committee that I wanted to talk about that I didn't want to get lost before we started doing readings of resolutions. So
Oh,
if
yeah,
we're
no,
on
we'll
assignments
definitely
now,
be-
it's fine. I just wanted to make sure that we hit them.
Yes, we will definitely do committee reports. So, let's do the assignments first, and I had, at one point, a little while ago, I had heard from Councilor Blackstone that you might be interested in the planning board. Is that still, not to put you on the
Yes.
spot, but I will. Is that a yes?
Yes.
Um, And Councilor Kuiper, would you?
I wanted to request to be on the yet created parking committee. And I'm right now on the conservation committee, an alternative to the planning budget and alternative to the CIP. So I'd be happy to give up my seat on the conservation commission or the other two, whatever, if one of the new counselors wanted to take that spot. I've only been to a couple meetings of the conservation commission, so I'm not, super involved yet or anything in anything that's going on there. So I'd be happy if either of the new councils or if anyone else wants to take that seat or whatever, so that I can do the parking thing or whatever.
So right now for vacancies, we have the planning board, and the ordinance oversight committee are vacancies. And then maybe some switching around if people, so are there, does anyone besides Councilor Blackstone, who graciously offered to serve on the planning board, or does anyone have any burning desire to serve on or switch up their committee assignments?
No burning desire.
I don't have a burning desire, I told you last to speak. But I'll fill in wherever I'm needed. Right now I'm, alternate for the budget committee and I filled in for Council Dumont once and, ad hoc for Riverfront Advisory, which is not nice, so, certainly have time to fill in any vacancies, whether it's the ordinance oversight or if, you're switching it up, I'd be happy to step in.
Any other thoughts or comments? No? Do we?
The ordinance oversight committee really could use a third member if we want to function.
I think we might have to enlist Councilor Braybeck. I think I'm gonna take that offer.
Sounds good.
Do we need to vote on these?
You do.
We do. So can we vote just as a
Sure.
one block? So
I think it would be
that would,
appropriate to accept the motion to amend the committee assignment list to have Councilor Blackstone serving as the planning board member, Councilor Kuiper to serve as the park. Actually, at that time, you
Yeah.
can't appoint until such time. But in Councilor Brayback to serve as the ordinance oversight committee member.
Okay, so I'm doing the two and leaving the parking for
Yeah.
a sec. Okay. All right, so I will make a motion to appoint Councilor Blackstone to the planning board, and Councilor Brayback to the ordinance oversight committee.
I will second that.
any questions questions or comments? Yes,
Yeah, find my button.
Councillor Sanders.
That still leaves John still on, what, 3 or 4 committees?
I think it would be 4, or, yeah.
Yeah, and CIP's done, that's completed, so.
Right, that will be completed until the next year.
Yeah, so there'll be a new set of members or switch it up or whatever.
I'd be happy to be the alternate to the planning board, if that, because I feel like that's a big commitment too, so maybe that would free up.
Yeah, that works.
Is that
Yeah.
okay with you?
Yeah, please, yeah.
This will force me to, I've been meaning to go to planning board meetings, so this will force me to do it.
I can take highway safety. I know it has a very busy meeting schedule, if that's impactful for you, Councilor Kuiper.
Yeah, it doesn't matter either way with that one.
It looks good on the resume.
Right.
So can we amend the resolution to include, removing, Councillor Kuiper as the alternate and adding myself? Is that, do we need a?
You get a friendly amendment, I don't think there's any.
Okay.
All right, so seeing no other, comments, if you could call the roll, please.
Councillor Dumont,
Aye.
Councillor Sanders,
Aye.
Councillor Blackstone,
Aye.
Councillor Braybeck. Aye. Councillor Kuiper,
Aye.
Councillor Burns,
Aye.
Councillor Weinstein.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. I can't remember what the makeup of the parking committee is. Is it only one councillor?
Yes.
Okay. That would have just ruined everything. It was more than one. So, next up is our committee reports. So I know Councillor Dumont, you had a committee report for the budget committee?
Yes, thank you so much. I appreciate that. I wanted to just let folks know that we did meet previous Monday, the budget committee, and following that meeting, you should have all received from me an email with the schedule that the budget committee is going to work off of. I have a feeling some dates might change in January and February based off of what Steve discussed with us this evening. But I really did want to highlight the fact that in normal years, having counselor support at the meetings for the budget committee when we're discussing our budget is helpful to have. Steve does an excellent job batting for us. I, as the representative, do try to speak to our needs, our desires, our in the same way that Steve does. But especially when we are entering into some awkward times with how we're presenting our budget and eventually approving it to go forth to the voters, I did just want to say that it does really, really, really help to make sure that you do show your support, that we as a council stand united when we go before the budget committee, when they do have questions, if they do want to make changes or amendments. We did see several attempts last year. I believe it was for the town council as well as the school. And I know that there are a couple of members of the budget committee who are taking closer looks into the budgets in the past couple of years than they have in previous years, just because folks who seem more engaged and are more attention to detail. So for me, it's helpful to know that there are other counselors who are also there to kind of speak to the desires and wishes as a body. But I just wanted to put that out there. And if you do have questions, you do have concerns, you do want to get some information either through to the budget committee or vice versa, don't hesitate to ask. You can talk to Steve, you can talk to myself, you can talk to Dan on the budget committee. But I just wanted to put that out there.
Thank you. Any other committee reports? Seeing none, we will move on. And thank you for sending out that schedule. I appreciated it. So our first item for resolutions in the second reading is resolution 2020-2021-10, and that's the approval of the memorandum of understanding between the town and school for facilities director services. And I would accept a motion to approve that resolution.
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2020-2021-10, approval of memorandum of understanding between the town and school for facilities director services.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As the council is aware, we had a position of a shared facilities director with the school district, and we are intend to continue to do so. With the arrival of Superintendent Givens, there are some changes that she requested in the agreement, and we received that from the school district as well. This memorandum of understanding takes the employee from being a town employee to a school district employee. We will do a, in the previous agreement, the employee answered to the superintendent of schools. It was their request that they answer to the superintendent of schools, a designee, which will be the business administrator. And as of right now, the formula will remain the same, which is a percentage of the budget. So we figured out last year was our percentage of the total operating budget's about 30%. So we pay 30% of the cost, and they pay the remainder. In subsequent years, we're going to look at how much time the director spends on performing work on behalf of the town versus the school. On my side, I would look at this position for the town as more of a project management type to assist with the planning and implementation of large projects, such as the energy efficiencies, those kind of items. I would then take a staff person to elevate them to be more of a hands-on facilities individual. We have a well-qualified staff person at this point in time, so I would look at doing that to make sure we have somebody to do the more of the day-to-day for us, which I think on our side was good when we had the facilities director, but I think maybe the school may have been lacking that during the project. So I just would look at doing that with this situation. Other than that, I think the school board did approve this and forwarded it on to the council, so it's here for the council's approval.
Any questions or comments for the town manager? I'm seeing none. I just wanted to, I looked at the agreement that we had originally, and really, other than the flip for the supervisory piece of it, it's really pretty much the same. So, I'm certainly comfortable with. The only question, Steve, for you is because, it specifically mentions, if there are any changes after, we would basically look at it annually.
Yep.
And I wonder if we should formalize, maybe not even in the MOU itself, but formalize some system of meetings, oversight. I don't know if that's necessary, if you feel like it's necessary, but I just thought I would throw that out there.
I don't think so at this point in time. I think what we did in the past worked. So my intention is to continue that route, especially with, I know the chairs and the superintendent and I meet periodically, that I think that's a good time to review that as well. So I think codifying may just be overkill.
Okay.
So.
I certainly don't have any other concerns about it. Seeing no other questions, if you could call the roll.
Council Jumon?
Aye.
Council Sanders?
Aye.
Council Gladstone?
Aye.
Council Braybeck? Aye. Council Kuiper?
Aye.
Council Burns?
Aye.
Council Weinstein?
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Every time I say call the roll, I look over at Steve. So
It's habit.
I don't think there's anything I can do about that
No.
for a while. So the next item on our agenda is to consider nominations and appointments, and we have two this evening. And the first is opening it is Michael Parkin, who commissioner for the Housing Authority, and I would accept a motion to approve that appointment.
I'll make a motion to approve Michael Parkin as Commissioner of the Housing Authority with a term expiration date of March 2023.
Second.
Yes.
Just for clarification, I had it held because we wanted it at the last meeting, because we wanted to make sure that there was no length of residency requirement, since he has lived in the community less than 1 year. But I contacted legal counsel and there is no requirement, so everything else fits.
Great, thank you. Seeing no questions or comments, if you would call the roll, please.
Counselor Dumont,
Aye.
Counselor Sanders,
Aye.
Counselor Blackstone,
Aye.
Counselor Brayback,
Aye.
Counselor Kuiper,
Aye.
Counselor Burns,
Aye.
Counselor Weinstein.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. The next that we have is for Chris Blackstone, who is applying to the trustee of the trust funds to fill in the remaining year created by a vacancy. So that would expire in April 2021, and I would accept a motion to approve that appointment.
I will make a motion to approve the appointment of Chris Blackstone as trustee of the trust funds with a term expiration of April 2021.
I'll second that.
Any questions or comments? Seeing none, if you could call the roll, please.
Counselor Dumont,
Aye.
Counselor Sanders,
Aye.
Counselor Blackstone,
Abstain.
Counselor Brayback,
Aye.
Counselor Kuiper,
Aye.
Counselor Burns,
Aye.
Counselor Weinstein.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0-1.
Thank you. And then we have a few resolutions in the first reading, and I'll just read them in order, or did you want me to do that first?
You can read them in order.
So we have Resolution 2020-11, the water plant boiler replacement. Whereas it has been determined that the boiler at the water plant on Packers Falls Road needs to be replaced, and whereas the water department has performed a competitive bidding process, and James Huel HVAC was the lowest bidder at $56,660, and the water department has money in its capital reserves. Maybe that's,
Yep.
there's supposed to be an amount there. Now therefore be it resolved by the Newmarket Town Council that the Newmarket Town Council approves the withdrawal of $59,660 from the water department's capital reserves for a project budget for James Huel HVAC to replace the boiler at the water plant on Packers Falls Road. First reading, November 4th, 2020. The next item that we have is Resolution 2020. Sorry,
I got it. You got it?
I have too many things open. That's what happens when you have too many tabs. Resolution 2020-2021-12, approval of the fiscal year 2022 budget. Whereas the town manager submitted his budget for the next fiscal year to the town council on October 15th. And whereas the town council, after reviewing the proposed budget and making various changes, desires to forward to the municipal budget committee a proposed budget for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2022. Now therefore be it resolved by the Newmarket Town Council that the annual budget for the town of Newmarket for fiscal year 2022 submitted to the town council by the town manager is amended and recommends to the municipal budget committee for its review the following appropriations. General fund, $8,719,292. Special funds, $1,449,315. Enterprise, which is the water and sewer funds, $3,510,826 for a total of $13,679,433. First reading November 4th, 2020.
Madam Chair, I request the council suspend the rules so they can act upon this evening, If not, the council budget would not go forward to the municipal budget committee and mine would be go.
Okay, I'll make a motion to suspend the rules.
Second.
Comments about the suspension of the rules? We tend to do this every year,
Yeah.
so it's not, I mean, it's not a surprise. It's something about, you know, the timeliness of it all. So, if you call the roll, please.
Counselor Dumont? Counselor Dumont?
Aye.
Counselor Sanders?
Aye.
Counselor Blackstone?
Aye.
Counselor Braybeck?
Aye.
Counselor Kuiper?
Aye.
Counselor Burns?
Aye.
Counselor Weinstein?
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Madam Chair, I'd also ask that the council amend this resolution where general fund reads $8,719,292 to $8,769,292, and the total would now be $13,729,433. That represents the $50,000 that the council added to the road reconstruction budget.
I'll make a motion to amend as stated by the town manager.
It's a lot easier.
Yeah.
Did you second, Counselor Dumont?
Yes, I did.
Any questions or comments? If you call the roll. On the
Counselor
amendment.
Dumont?
Aye.
Counselor Sanders?
Aye.
Counselor Blackstone?
Aye.
Counselor Braybeck?
Aye.
Counselor Kuiper?
Aye.
Counselor Burns?
Aye.
Counselor Weinstein?
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Did we, oh, no,
Now the full budget.
now the full budget.
Yeah.
So we haven't accepted a motion yet.
No, now the motion to,
So I need a motion to approve, I've lost track. I
Yeah.
need a motion to approve resolution 2021-12, the fiscal year 2022 budget.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2020-2021-12, fiscal year 2022 budget.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Did you have any other comments?
nope.
I will say that this, our budget process went, the smoothest that I've seen in my time on the council, and it was really, a pleasure to go through this process. So, with that, if you could call the roll, please.
Counselor Dumont?
Aye.
Counselor Sanders?
Aye.
Counselor Blackstone?
Aye.
Counselor Braybeck?
Aye.
Counselor Kuiper?
Aye.
Counselor Burns?
Aye.
Counselor Weinstein?
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
So the next item that we have is another resolution in the first reading, and it's resolution 2020-2021-13, purchase of a 2021 E1 rescue pumper engine. Whereas the fire department needs to replace its 1998 engine rescue pumper, and whereas the department obtained proposals for a new engine pumper from 3 different vendors, with Greenwood Emergency Vehicles having the best options for a lease purchase for the sum of $625,000 with a 10-year lease agreement from tax-exempt leasing corp at a rate of 2.32%. And whereas the fire department capital reserve fund has a balance of $321,343 as of October 1, 2020. Now therefore, be it resolved by the Newmarket Town Council that the town manager is authorized to purchase a new E1 rescue pumper engine and enter into any related contracts with Greenwood Emergency Vehicles and tax-exempt leasing corp for a lease purchase of 10 years for a price not to exceed $625,000, with $250,000 being with the fire department capital reserve account, and lease purchasing the remaining balance of $375,000 at a rate of 2.32% with an annual payment of $42,449.47. First reading, November 4th, 2020. And the last item that we have is Resolution 2020-2021-14, creating a parking commission. Whereas the Newmarket Town Council has set as one of its goals to improve parking in the downtown, and whereas the Town Council wishes to create a committee to review and make recommendations on potential projects, now therefore let it be resolved by the Newmarket Town Council. The Newmarket Town Council does hereby create a committee to be named the Parking Commission as follows. Parking Commission.
You might just read it by, it's quite lengthy, it's a couple pages.
Oh, yeah, it is. Yes, I will just read it by title only. So, creating a parking commission. And that is available if anybody wants to look at the makeup of the committee. It is on our agenda, which is online. Any closing comments by town councilors? Oh, Councilor Kuiper.
I just had a quick question about the parking commission.
Yes.
Yeah.
It says membership shall be 4 Newmarket residents, 1 Newmarket town councilor, and 2 Newmarket commercial property or business owners. So those would not necessarily have to be residents?
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, that was my question as well.
Just a reminder for counselors, and since we have 2 new counselors, that when there's a question on a resolution or ordinance in the first reading, you should ask that at the second reading.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Trying to, want to make sure there's no bad habits with.
Or if there are questions that you need answered prior to the
Let me know.
second reading,
Yep.
you can reach out to the town manager.
And that's a good segue to remind the 2 new counselors that Monday morning, 9 a.m., we'll have a orientation session on Microsoft Teams. So make sure it's downloaded.
Oh.
That's what we use that internally.
When is that?
That's for the 2 new members,
Oh,
not just the 2 new ones.
for a minute I thought I completely missed a meeting.
Nope,
I was
nope.
like, oh, I was
Just
thinking
remind the
that
2
too.
new members, we have an orientation session
Via Newmarket Teams.
via
Via
Newmarket
Newmarket.
Teams.
Okay, I thought it was.
Via
all right.
Microsoft Teams.
Or Microsoft.
program.
Clearly I've not
Yes.
had enough sleep.
On that note, though, I don't know if this is the appropriate time to bring this up, but, an email went out about migrating all of us to Microsoft, and it looks like discussion is going on about doing that on Monday morning as well. I don't know.
You should be fine. I mean, I've got to read the email again. I didn't read it in depth. I know Council Burns has an issue, but Council Blackstone does not need to, because he's already, since he started, we didn't want to go from one system to the other. He's already on Microsoft. We're switching all everything from Google to Microsoft. So I don't.
I got
I've
the
gotta-
sense that it was individual.
Yeah.
It says that it needs to be all of us at the same time, and
Oh.
need to remote access our computers.
And let me
Yeah.
double check that, because I've got to find out. I'm going to recheck that, because I don't think you need to have it. You don't need to have Outlook installed on your computer to do
Okay.
that. All you need is a web access, much like Google,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
it will look like Outlook. So, and that's what we'd prefer to do. So, I'm going to double check with the IT.
Oh, I misunderstood that.
I did as well.
Did you have one? Counselor Kuiper.
I just wanted to thank all the Newmarket residents for a really pretty easy and quick voting day yesterday, and I thought it just went really well, and Terry seemed to be great, and all the volunteers were really great, and we had 0 of the issues that I think we all were imagining. So I just want to say, good job, Newmarket.
Agreed.
Absolutely.
Chairman, I just wanted to say that I was out in Halloween and I was really impressed how many creative ways people had to dispense candy in a non-contact format. I thought it was a very innovative holiday.
That's fantastic.
Great.
Great, seeing no other comments, then I will consider us adjourned. Our next meeting is November 18th. Thank you.
Have a good night.